You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a life coach, Nancy can teach you how to stay strong under pressure and work through challenges you face. Being legally blind, Nancy inspires others to be resilient in overcoming obstacles and live full out. You can ask Nancy for advice in your life on relationships, finance, business, health, and more. Just call in at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. Now, here's Nancy.
Hello and welcome to Living Full Out Show. My name is Nancy Solari, and today we're talking about healing from your past. We've all had things happen in our past, whether it was family chaos or an event in our life, an accident, something that we've had to heal from, that we've had to overcome. But it's interesting to look and see, how did we survive? What did we learn from it? And we'd very much like all of you to call in today. If you are dealing with a stress from your past, let's conquer that so you can get the relief and be able to live full out. Also, in our next segment, we're going to be joined by our inspirational guest, Sandy Phillips Kirkham. And she was actually abused by her pastor. So it's very interesting, her story. But rather than being a victim to him, she actually conquered it. She took her power back, and I won't give it all away, but it's definitely one to listen into. And most of all, as we journey through the show today and we talk about healing from our past, consider the fact that even if your life was so good and it was pure and you had great parents and a good upbringing, then applause. But you also want to consider keeping your eyes and ears open for others who maybe were less fortunate. I do believe that oftentimes the gift that we can give away to others is being that sounding board, or looking for those who are struggling, maybe a child who, starting to act differently, maybe something is occurring in their life, abuse or, lack of affection that they're needing. That might be why they're acting out or not doing well in school, or even a close friend or a relative. If you see that someone's moods are changing, you might want to ask them, hey, do you need to talk or what's going on? Really want to make sure I put that out there to everyone. The great thing about living full out in life is it's not about, carrying our past into the future, but it is about learning. It is about saying, you know what? My past does not define me. It's made me shaped who I am today. It's, influenced who I've become. But the great thing about the here and the now and the future is that you are the author of your book, of your life story. You have the ability to turn a page, start a new chapter. You know what? You could even make it a short book, very, very short, all done. Next book, next novel, and then make it something more inspiring. And it's really important that as you consider healing from your past, it is your ability to execute that, to turn that page, to say enough's enough, to say, you know what, I'm going to leave the past in the past, and I'm going to choose to embrace my future with open arms. I'm going to take what I've learned and do better, be better. Now, I'm getting word that we have a listener on the line. We're going to go check in with them. Hi, welcome to the Living Full Out Show.
Hello.
Hi, thank you for calling. How can I help you?
How are you doing today?
I'm great, thanks.
Thanks for taking my call. I'd just like to ask, what can I do or we do to support people who have suffered from racial injustice?
That's a really good question, right? Because sometimes it's hard to be in someone else's shoes. It's hard to really take in their entire experience. And I'm just curious, the person that you're talking to, is that someone close to home, like a relative or a friend or a coworker, or more just strangers and being kind of more open to what's happening?
Well, people in the community and some friends and some people who are distant acquaintances.
Okay, so quite a variety of people who have felt this injustice,
Sure,
is what you're saying. Okay. One of the biggest gifts that I've always felt that one can give is the ability to listen. And I'm sure that you already do that already, but when somebody has been bullied or wronged, taken advantage of, and maybe that has shifted the other person's ability to believe in themselves, to be confident, to believe that they're worthy. the ability for you to give them the gift of say, you know what, tell me about your experience. Tell me what happened. And then follow it up with questions like, how did that make you feel? When we ask somebody to allow them to kind of vent their feelings, their frustrations, see, emotions stand for energy in motion. So you're giving someone the opportunity to let that energy out of their mind, out of their heart, out of their core. And maybe that is what's been blocking them for so long, not feeling heard, not feeling validated, not feeling like there's ever going to be change. It takes one person like you to open that door, open that gate, and say, I'm here. Give it to me. Tell me how you feel. And then from there, once you know those intimate details as much as they're willing to share, if you're able, the next step would be to dedicate your time, your money, whatever resources you can. So if someone says that they were racially, picked on, then maybe there's a cause that supports them. Maybe there's an organization that they've turned to for their own support. And you can say, you know what? You've inspired me. I'd like to give X amount of money to that organization. Or you've really opened my eyes. I'd like to, find a way to contribute at their next fundraiser. I'd like to be a part of that mission, that movement. Do you see that?
Yes.
So what happens there is now you've, number one, given them the opportunity to vent, to say their story, to tell it. You've also validated what happened to them. And you're able to say, hey, I take seriously what you're telling me. I honor you. And I'm going to go ahead and pay it forward in your honor. And then the other thing you can do is once you have that conversation is really to educate other people. When I learn about somebody who has been wronged, whether they have a disability, whether it's racial, whether it's, being homeless and feeling like they don't have the same resources as others, I like to pay it forward by educating others with the stories that I've learned, the feedback I've been given. And I think we all have the ability to be storytellers. So when we're talking today about healing from our past, it's really about allowing a voice to that past, but being able to have a channel of a new opportunity, a new outlook. And we all have that ability to do that. So to our caller there, I know that if you do that, you will be able to inspire your friend and really, validate what they've gone through. And for everybody listening, when we're talking today about healing from your past, this is not done in a snap. I also encourage all of you to consider getting a coach, getting a therapist. There is nothing wrong with that. Maybe you look at all the friends and family in your life and you say, nope, nobody is a good listener, or everybody's judgmental. Then that's okay. That's what those professionals are there for. And don't be afraid to ask for help. The worst thing you can do is harbor any stress, any pain, any burdens inside. That just festers toxic energy. What you want to do is get it out. And I talked earlier today about being the author of your life because sometimes journaling is a good way to purge that frustration. It is a wonderful way to heal. And even sometimes when you journal, you're able to go back and see the growth that you've had, even in your own mindset, the way that you talk to yourself. I also find that when we heal from our past, we have to look at forgiving those that have wronged us. I know that seems awkward and weird, and we've had a lot of guests on the show that are actually forgiven, and there's power in that. It's releasing that person, saying, you know what, you wronged me, you did affect my life, but you know what, I learned from that. In some ways, I even thank you for that. You've made me stronger. You've opened my eyes. I'm able to go on and be a speaker. I'm able to be more relatable to people in my community. It's made me a better father or mother. So it's in some ways, when we're challenged in life, when we're stressed, when we've been wronged, when we've gone through pain, that time, those lessons, they actually allow us to become better, to do better. And as we go through this show today, I just want you to identify, maybe not every hurdle from your past, but identify one today that you're going to let go of. You're going to release it. You're going to say, I am done. I'm not going to hold you anymore. I'm not going to carry you on my back anymore. I'm letting you go. You're turning that page. Now, stay with us. We're going to be coming up next with our special guest, Sandy Phillips Kirkham. Again, her story is inspiring, but also educational, because I'll tell you what, I walk away from talking to her and I'm like, wow, this is a tenacious woman with an amazing heart. And again, put on your seatbelts. It's an amazing story. Stay with us. I'm Nancy Solari. This is the Living Full Out Show. We'll be back.
Hi, professional skateboarder Tony Hawk here with Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck to remind you to get moving every day.
Because when you get moving an hour a day,
you'll have the energy to skate through anything.
Nice play on words, Doc.
That's how I roll, Bugs. So whether you like to work the half pipe,
now that's catching air,
kick the soccer ball around, or dance in your room,
just move it your way.
For an hour a day.
The way you like to move, as long as you're moving.
Carve out some time every day and get active. Because it's time to do a 180 on what you think exercise is.
Because it can be whatever you want it to be. So be a player.
Be a player.
Get up and play an hour a day, Doc. Check out how to be a player at letsmove.gov.
Head online to get tips on great ways to get moving every day.
At www.letsmove.gov. Let's hear that one more time, Doc. That's www.letsmove.gov. A message from the Ad Council and HHS.
I'm Nancy Solari, Certified Life and Business Coach. I want to invite you to the Personal Development Boot Camp. During the boot camp, we're going to be looking at taking those insecurities that you have and getting rid of them. We're also going to look at ways in which you can thrive and live a life full of purpose. Go to livingfullout.com/bootcamp, livingfullout.com/bootcamp to sign up. I believe in you, and here's to you living your life full out.
I'm Sarah, and this is my story.
I'm Ellen, and this is my story.
One night, I was at a bar.
I
was having fun with my friends.
I
had one too many drinks.
I
got behind the wheel to go home.
I got a cab to go home.
All of a sudden, from out of nowhere, a squirrel ran across the road. It happened so quickly, I barely had time to react.
The cabbie barely had time to react.
I swerved.
The cab swerved.
I can't believe it. I hit a guy.
I cannot believe it. The cabbie just missed a guy.
I wish I took a cab.
Thank goodness I took a cab.
You have the choice to save a life. Don't drive buzzed. It's a decision you'll never regret. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the Department of Transportation and the Ad Council.
Hey, America, we need to have a little talk. We've got more food than we know what to do with in this country, yet 17 million kids in America are struggling with hunger. Makes no sense. Luckily, the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks has volunteers gathering excess food and getting it to hungry kids. They're kind of like food angels. Hey, become a food angel yourself by supporting Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org. We can't do it without your help. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
If you think depression is all in a person's head, you're right. It's a brain illness. And like other illnesses, it has symptoms. Depression can make those who suffer from it feel hopeless. It can even lead to suicide. Learn how to stop depression from taking another life. Call SAVE, Suicide Awareness Voices of Education, 1-888-511-SAVE, on the web at save.org.
I'm Alec Baldwin. Like any parent, I'm concerned about children's health. Many kids don't eat as they should and are at risk for long-term health problems like diabetes and heart disease. But here's good news. Fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and other low-fat vegetarian foods can protect our kids and keep the rest of the family healthy too. For a free booklet, call the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine at 1-877-685-KIDS or visit www.kidsgethealthy.org.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. With Nancy's expertise, you'll learn how to embrace your potential and strive for success. If you have a question or need further support, send us an email at connect@livingfullout.com. Now, here's Nancy.
Thank you for joining us today. I am Nancy Solari, and this is the Living Full Out Show. And today we're talking about healing from your past. And as always, we try to bring inspirational guests your way that have really gone through it and are a great example of our theme of the day. And boy, Sandy Phillips Kirkham has done it with her story. But there's a lot of twists and turns, so hang in there with us, because it's hard when we talk about somebody as a child being sexually abused and to know for how long this went on, decades, that she held on to this secret. And so, we're going to kind of unpack this as we go, but I'd very much like to welcome Sandy to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Nice to have you. And I'm sorry, I wish the topic was different, but you are a light in this world, and we are so grateful that you have the courage to share your story. It's a really important one. Now, I'm going to kind of fill our audience in a bit, because again, there's so much to get to, but I know that you grew up in a family. It was a bit chaotic. Parents were divorced, remarried, and, I'm with you on that one. My family was the same way. I know that you found kind of a safe harbor in church, youth group, and that became really your home. And you were so involved in it. You were singing, you were Sunday school leader, you were in the youth group. But because you had been so involved, you could see this dynamic shift that happened when a pastor, a new one, entered your church and joined the community. Can you share with us what that was like, his energy? But then can you also share with us the fact that that's really over that year when the grooming began?
Well, as you said, we had hired a new youth pastor. I was just turned 16 at the time, and he was just totally different than any other youth pastor or minister we'd ever seen. This was the early 70s, so he was very charismatic, very dynamic in his personality. He dressed more like the kids. He was very outgoing, and people were just drawn to him. He had a personality that made people want to be around him. And he took our youth group, he took the church, and really transformed it with how we had our services, and we did different kinds of activities that were new to us. And the atmosphere and the excitement in the church just exploded. And we had people coming from all over the city. Our youth group went from like 25 kids to almost 200 in a very short time. It was just a dynamic that it's hard to describe. And so we were all so excited and to be a part of this. And we felt like we were all special to be included as a part of this youth group and what he was doing. He singled me out pretty early on, which wasn't surprising to a lot of people or to me, because I was a leader in the church at that time and in the youth group. But he began to spend more time with me under the guise that he was helping me spiritually, and he was helping me to grow within the church. And so it was so slow and methodical, it wasn't really noticeable in the beginning. And of course, I felt special. I was 16 years old. I loved being in the church, and here was this wonderful youth minister who everybody adored and was now telling me how special I was and how much he needed me in the ministry. So that's how the grooming began. It started really physically one night after a youth group meeting. He just told me how wonderful I was and how much he appreciated all the work I was doing in the church, and he bent down and he kissed me. And I was absolutely stunned. I was shocked. I didn't know what to say or do. But I kind of just let it go, thinking this was my pastor, and he wouldn't do anything he shouldn't be doing. And so I actually kind of felt guilty for thinking he was doing something he shouldn't be doing. And I explained it in my own mind that this was just his way of showing appreciation, and it was just a kiss. And I was making too big of a deal out of it, and I just accepted it.
Well,
and that went on for about a year.
Yeah, so it sounds like, well, he did kiss you. It sounds like he was quite huggy with a lot of people, so that was kind of
part of his
how he did it. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, that went on for a year, and sometimes he would kiss you, sometimes he wouldn't. It was very sporadic, not planned. But
he normalized it.
Exactly. Now, the night came, though, when he took it up a notch and really tested your defenses. Would you say no? Would you let him do it? And what happened then?
Well, I was babysitting at their home. His wife worked evenings, and he took me into the living room and put me on the floor and began undressing me and was shocked. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. And he kept telling me how much he cared for me, how much he loved me, and that he would never hurt me, and that I could trust him. And I just really kind of zoned out. I just closed my eyes and thought, this isn't happening. At first I thought he might stop, but he didn't. And as I describe in the book, he took me up the steps, and I just felt like my body was moving and my mind couldn't stop it. And he had sex with me. He immediately took me in the bedroom and had sex with me. And from that point on, the relationship really did change in the sense that he made me promise not to tell anyone and that I would be responsible if I did, and no one was going to believe me. He then tried to tell me, or he did tell me, and I accepted it eventually, that we were married in God's eyes, and this was God's will in our lives, that because I was so active in the church that I was going to help him in his ministry, and this was part of God's plan. And again, being 16, 17 years old, that I didn't know what else to think but to believe what he was telling me. And at that point, I was ashamed for allowing him to do what he had done to me. And so I felt as I participated in this relationship, and so we were both guilty if there was any sin involved, and I had to accept it.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is this roller coaster, right? Because on one hand, he was like, I love you, I love you, I love you, almost like he was your boyfriend. And on the other hand, he was controlling you, telling you what to wear, even setting you up with dates, right? So that it wouldn't look obvious, the attention he was giving you, and then he would cut off the date, or cut off that relationship when he thought it was getting too serious.
I mean, shortly after having sex with me, and he knew he had me, he became obsessive, controlling, violent. I mean, he became a totally different person. And at that point, I didn't know how to get out of it. I didn't know what to do. And so I felt trapped in that relationship. And eventually, I just accepted it. I quit trying to figure out how I can get away and what I can do. I finally just said, this is what it is.
Well, and I'm curious, Sandy, because, there are moments in time that we can't go back, but there was your breakaway time when you turned 18 and you're like, I'm going away to college, I'm breaking this cycle. Mm-hmm. But he got you to stay. How did he get you to stay?
Well, he played the guilt trip with me again. He told me, how much this church needed me, and I was very much involved in my church. I lived my faith. It was everything to me. So to use that weapon against me to say, if you leave, you're going to hurt the church, and the church needs you. And then he would say, well, and I need you. And I didn't want to hurt his feelings. I mean, I had an affection for him because he had been so helpful to me. So a part of me, I felt bad if I was going to hurt him. And finally, I just said, okay, I'll stay. It was just the control, and I think my willingness to please. And I just said, okay, I'll stay. Yeah. And I did.
Well, there is so much more to your story, Sandy, and I've told our audience to put on their seatbelt because although in her story right now, she seems very willing to go with the flow of what he wants, she did fight back. And I applaud her every step of the way for what she did. So everybody stay with us. Today we're talking about healing from your past. And again, that's a easier said than done statement, right? But you can do it. Sandy's done it. I've done it. And you can too. Stay with us. We'll be coming right back after this break. I'm Nancy Solari. This is the Living Full Out Show. We'll be back.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari.
There are many sounds in your day-to-day life. There are sounds that wake you up. Sounds that make you smile. Sounds that energize you. And sounds that help you relax. But there are some sounds that can alert you to danger and can help save lives. Wireless emergency alerts, now on many mobile devices, use a unique sound and vibration to bring you information about severe weather events, Amber Alerts, or other emergencies in your area. With critical information from local sources you know and trust, you can be in the know, wherever you are. For more information, visit ready.gov/alerts. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Hello, my name is Jeffrey, but people in this town call me Maniac. They call me that because I'm the fastest runner in town. But just because everyone knows who I am doesn't mean I belong. I don't really belong anywhere. You see, I'm an orphan, and I wander the streets just looking for a place that I can truly call home. My name is Maniac McGee, and I'm all alone. Explore new worlds. Read my story in the novel Maniac McGee by Jerry Spinelli. For other great book ideas, visit your local library or log on to literacy.gov. Brought to you by the Library of Congress and the Ad Council.
Look for the bare necessities.
The bare necessities of healthy living are easier than you think.
You better believe it.
And the food pyramid shows you the way with just the right amount of exercise and the necessary grains, vegetables, fruits, milk, and meats and beans.
Just the bare necessities of life.
So eat right, be active, and have fun.
Yeah, man.
For your own path to a healthier you, visit mypyramid.gov.
This is really living.
This message brought to you by the U.S. Department of Agriculture and the Ad Council.
Hi, my name is Nancy Solari, host of the Living Full Out Show. I am excited to let you know that we are now associated with Alexa. If you have Alexa in your house and you didn't know that, go ahead and find Living Full Out because you can hear us anytime you want, and we're there for you to keep you motivated. Go to your app store because we're located there as well. Just look for the Living Full Out radio show. It's important to us that we put out really inspiring programming, but we want to make sure that you have it at your fingertips when you need us most. We never know when those challenges are going to come, when we're going to feel lonely and need that motivation. So just know that when you need us, we're here for you. Check out Alexa, the app stores, or go to livingfullout.com. Here's to you living full out.
What if I could tell you that a full-blown wildfire was going to occur tomorrow right where you live? Tell you exactly which neighborhoods it would engulf and how fast it would do it. The first thing you would do is talk with your loved ones and make a plan today. It's true, I can't tell you a wildfire will strike tomorrow, but shouldn't you make a plan anyway? Go to ready.gov/communicate and make your emergency plan today. Don't wait, communicate. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a life coach, Nancy can teach you how to stay strong under pressure and work through challenges you face. Being legally blind, Nancy inspires others to be resilient in overcoming obstacles and live full out. You can ask Nancy for advice in your life on relationships, finance, business, health, and more. Just call in at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. Now, here's Nancy.
Welcome back. I'm Nancy Solari, and this is the Living Full Out Show. And today we're talking about healing from your past. And we're actually continuing our interview with Sandy Phillips Kirkham and her courage to share her story, because it's really tough to talk about abuse, sexual abuse, and just everything that she went through. But I'd like to welcome Sandy back to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. And, again, he was controlling you. He was almost like your boyfriend. I love you, I love you, I love you. And then obviously the weird dynamic of, as the kids were getting older and you stopped babysitting, not wanting his wife to know, not wanting people to be alerted of how much time you were spending together. I couldn't believe it when he actually made you start going to hotels, but yet you pay for it, not him, because he obviously had to kind of hide it from his wife. But the day did finally come after a long time of all these hotel visits together and continuing the abuse, when two people caught on to what was happening, and they finally called a hotel room one day. And what happened?
Well, the phone rang, and he said, 2 people from the church are downstairs, and they know that we're here. And my heart dropped, and I didn't know what to do. I was petrified. It was a moment of, this is it. were going to be exposed. And I say that we because, again, I felt like I was the participant in this and I didn't stop it. And so shortly after that, he was called into the elders. He asked for forgiveness. They told him that they would forgive him. They gave him a going-away party, and he was moved to the next church. And then shortly after he departed, I was called in by two elders and told because of my behavior, I was to leave the church. And I was devastated. I loved that church. And to have two people sit there and look at me and tell me I was no longer fit to worship there really had an impact on my life, probably in some ways greater than his actual abuse did for me, because it changed my life spiritually and it changed my church life dramatically. So,
that was your home, right? That was where you essentially grew up.
And I believed what I had been told, that you could be forgiven, and certainly they had forgiven him. But no one asked me any questions. No one got my side of the story. He gave the narrative. So whatever he told them was what they believed. And so and it's easier to blame the victim than it is to blame this person that you've already looked up to and someone who has brought in people to the church, who's brought in income to the church. So for that reason, I think it was easier to look at me and say, let's blame her and remove her from the church. And that's what they did.
Well, it's such a big story. But I know that over time you came to realize that he had done this many times. A church previous to yours, when he had moved on, he actually did it again and got that girl pregnant, and on and on and on. I mean, this was just his thing. This was his behavior. But I also think it's interesting because you did move on. You turned the page and you started a family and got married. But I know in your heart's a heart, as 27 years later came around, you felt like you were still living a double life. You felt like you needed to come clean to your husband. Why was that so important to you?
Well, for 27 years, I carried guilt and shame. And for 27 years, I had to manage trigger factors and navigate around those trigger factors and act normal when I wasn't feeling normal. I felt like I was going to be falling apart. But for 27 years, that was my life. And then there was a trigger factor, which I talk about in the first chapter of the book, that absolutely sent me into a tailspin. It was an eruption of emotions that finally I was able to take for a moment and think, this man didn't love me. This man didn't care for me. I couldn't use the word abuse in the beginning, but I knew what he did was wrong. And from the very beginning, I just had this need to say, I need to face what was done to me. So that began with telling a friend, and then I eventually was able to tell my husband, and then I eventually confronted my abuser. I found him. But it was 27 years of living that way before I was able to first acknowledge, okay, that this was wrong and I need to tell someone. And that wasn't easy to do.
Well, and I know you have your book out there, so they never say give a lady's age away, but I need everybody to understand, this started at 16. And correct. When you say 27 years later, at 49 is when you hired the investigator and you went in pursuit of finding him. And you did find him. And I know there's so much to it of what you said and all of that, but the thing is he wasn't remorseful. And how, after all this time, did that affect you for him not to say, I'm sorry, not to even validate it?
Well, he did say he was sorry, but he couldn't articulate, and it was obvious once he said he was sorry, then everything related back to him, why he did what he did and why he was the way he was, and that he'd been identified as a sexual addict. So everything was about him. He never could look at me and understand what he had really done to me. And it was hurtful, but what I came to understand was my healing could not be dependent upon his reaction. I was grateful for the opportunity I had to confront him, but it wasn't going to give me what I needed. He could never change what he did to me. He could not give me back what he took from me. And so I had to accept that this was what I needed to be able to accept, that my life could not be dependent upon what he said or didn't say to me in that meeting.
I'm just curious, because there were opportunities, there was a time early on where someone did come up to you when you were in your teenage years and asked, is there something going on between you and this person? Then there was the time at 18 when you could have gone away to school. And I'm just curious, how did you resolve the anger within yourself? Did you feel as though you had let yourself down?
I did, and I was angry in the beginning. I was very angry in the beginning, and it took a while to get over that anger. But again, what I discovered was for 27 years, I carried guilt and shame. After I confronted him, I carried hate and anger. And neither one of those were going to serve me well in my own life. I wanted to live the life that I was meant to live, not the one created by his abuse. I wanted to live the life of who I was and not who he told me I was. And so as long as I held on to the anger and nothing was going to change, my anger wasn't going to change anything, then I had to let go of that. And it wasn't easy. I don't want people to misunderstand that this just, I had to fight it. There were days when I'd get that anger again, and I'd have to tell myself, you need to let go of this. He doesn't care. He never did care. He's not going to change. I've done all I can going to his church leaders to expose him. They still keep him. He's still in the ministry to this day. So I've done what I can do, and now it's my turn to live my life. And what I can do is to share my story to help others and to educate people into understanding what clergy sexual abuse is about and the dynamics of it. It's not an affair. It's not a mistake. It's not a sin of the heart. It is an abusive person taking advantage of a person who is vulnerable and in crisis.
Well, and I want to ask you, let's go back to the faith piece for a second here, because obviously you grew up in a chaotic home and then church was your second home. And, to have been told to leave, to battle out this anger, to really not ever get from him what you fully wanted. How has that changed your ability to be in your faith? Have you stayed with it? Have you walked away from it?
I'm actually, my faith is deeper in God now than it was before, because for 27 years I was disconnected from God. I didn't pray. I could not. Church was very difficult for me to attend. I went almost every Sunday because I wanted my children to have that experience, but I could not engage in church in any way. I totally shut off when I was in church. So after I began my healing process, I'm still able to go to church, but I have many trigger factors. It's very difficult for me to be in church. But my spiritual life, I now can pray. I feel closer to God than I have in 27 years. And so in that sense, I think my faith is deeper. But church life, what he did to me with my church is he contaminated everything about it for me. There's just too many things that remind me of that time, and I have difficulty with it.
It's tragic when any children are abused and taken advantage of by someone who should be protecting them. And, I'm just curious. I want to go back in time and give the 16, 17, 18-year-old you a big hug. But, what would you tell that person, that teenager? Because there's others like you going through it.
That, first of all, if something doesn't feel right and you don't feel comfortable, then it's not right. And tell someone. You can't, there were many people at the time I could have told. I just didn't know that I could do that. I was so controlled by him and his narrative of don't tell anyone, that's where my mind was. And so, and I would say, you're smarter and you're prettier than you think, because he always degraded me and telling me I wasn't very smart, that I wasn't very pretty. Don't let someone else tell you who you are. Be who you are, and not that person that someone else is trying to mold and change.
I love it. And now that you've turned the page of your story, now that you've set your own path, what does living full out mean to you, this new you, this vibrant you?
It means loving who I am right now, not who he said I was. It means embracing the wonderful life that I have. It means taking what was done to me and using it for a purpose. I'm so joyful that I'm able to help other people, because I often have wondered how my life would have been different if, when he was doing what he was doing to me at the time, I had heard someone else's story. I would have known I wasn't alone. And so for me to be able to share my story gives me a joy that I didn't have before. And it makes what was done to me and what happened to me, gives it a purpose. And
Sandy, even as I hear your story today, my heart has grown bigger. I feel it even warmer, and you have a lot of friends at Living Full Out. So thank you for trusting us to share this story. It's so important to put out there. And, we are going to continue to just wish you all the best. But thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. And for everybody listening today, amazing story. But again, paying it forward, tapping into her purpose, healing from her past, that is the goal of life. Now, if you have a story that you've overcome, perhaps you've been abused, maybe there was an accident that changed the way your life was going, whatever you have learned, if you've had an addiction, if you've, gone from being homeless to stability in your life, we would love to hear from you and perhaps have you as a guest on the show. Reach out to us at connect@livingfullout.com. Let us know what you went through. Make sure to give us your contact information so we can reach out to you. It is all about living full out, but we do it together. We inspire each other to keep stepping forward and never giving up and knowing that peace in our life is possible. Stay with us. We're going to be coming right back, taking more of your calls. Remember, today it's all about healing from the past, setting it free, moving forward as you live full out into the future. We'll be back.
So I'm a cat, and I just moved in with this new human, and she's got this little toy she's always playing with, all day long. Tap, 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 bloop, bloop. She can't put it down. There it is. Oh, and get this. She even talks to it. Last week, she asked it for Chinese, and guess what? Egg rolls showed up. Like magic. Humans have cool toys.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
So, Jacqueline.
Yes, Mom?
I wanted to talk to you about something, and... Oh, wait. Hold on. I just got a text.
Oh, wait, Mom. I just got a message. So many comments on my comment.
Hey, guys, check out my new video game.
Mom, what?
Huh?
Pew, pew. What'd you say?
This weekend, unplug. Getting closer to nature can get you closer to your family. To find the forest nearest you, go to discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Thanks for asking, but I'd rather not send you nude pictures. I'm camera shy. I already said no. It's against my religion. I'm giving my dog a bath. You can have pictures of that. Pressure gives me hives. Under my clothes, I'm a robot. Hold on, let me ask my mom. Sorry, my webcam is broken. I'm worried they'll get passed around school. Unfortunately, I just had my clothes surgically attached to my body. If they got out, I might never be president. I'm already naked, under my clothes. Not even if you were all three Jonas Brothers. I have a rash. I have nudophobia. I have lizard skin. The more you ask, the less I want to. You're not the boss of me. Nudity makes me vomit. I'm a vampire, so I don't show up in pictures anyways. Your badgering has really killed the mood.
When someone is pressuring you to do something you don't want to, how many ways can you say no before they get the message? Let us know at that'snotcool.com. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
If you own a gun, you have a full-time responsibility. When you aren't using it, be sure it can't get into the hands of curious children, troubled teenagers, a thief, or anyone else who might misuse it. Your family, friends, and neighbors are all counting on you. Remember, always, lock it up. For more information on firearm storage safety, visit ncpc.org. This message brought to you by the National Crime Prevention Council, the Bureau of Justice Assistance, and the Ad Council.
This is a test to find out if you know it all when it comes to children. Name one of the leading killers of U.S. children age 1 to 13. What's the best way to protect children in a car crash? At what age and size should a child start using a booster seat?
Don't assume you know it all when it comes to car seats for your child. Go to safercar.gov/the-right-seat and know for sure. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
When I grow up, I want to be a new pair of blue jeans.
When I grow up, I want to be a kid's first computer.
I want to be a warm fleece on a cold day.
Football
I want to be a
stadium.
bike that races around the country.
I want to be a bench on a forest trail.
When I grow up, I don't want to be a piece of garbage. And if you recycle me, I won't be.
Give your garbage another life. Recycle. Learn how at iwanttoberecycled.org. Brought to you by Keep America Beautiful and the Ad Council.
Well, I finally did it. My student loan is totally paid off.
What? What about our plan to win the lottery and start living? You know, travel the world on matching yachts, wear enough jewelry to require a bodyguard, vacation on the French Riviera, and then buy it.
You know we're never going to win the lottery, right?
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
When it comes to healing from your past, you want to trust in a coach or a therapist or a friend, somebody to voice what has happened to you, and then find a way to journal or speak it out and let it go. And know that the past does not define you, but yet you can learn lessons from it to motivate you, inspire you to find your purpose as you live full out in the future.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. Nancy is here as a guide to show you how to rise above obstacles and savor each moment. If you have a question, call in live at 800-333-0001. That's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Welcome back. I'm Nancy Solari, and this is the Living Full Out Show. And today we've been talking about healing from your past. And everybody's situation is going to be different, what you've gone through. I raised my hand with you, though, because, gosh, going through domestic violence in my life as a child and, being able to call the police on your parents is not every child's dream, but I lived it and survived it. And watching my mom survive breast cancer and watching my sisters tackle eating disorders and being told you're going to go blind by 40 and on and on and on, right? Those are just some of mine. And you've got yours. But it's really important that we remember that while these things are happening, and a lot of times it's the actions and the behaviors of other people that might influence you and impact your childhood, your growing up, it's also very important to be able to tap into who you are at the core. Your past does not define your destiny, your ability. Just because you may have grown up in poverty or homelessness does not mean that you can't go on to have your own company and thrive and not have a worry about money. It's possible. Just because your parents had a rocky relationship and in and out of different marriages doesn't mean that you can't build a family of your own, one that you can be proud of. And as you watch other people go in and out of all the different life challenges and hurdles, be very careful to let that negativity, maybe the things they say to themselves, or even sometimes when they come to you as a sounding board and they're kind of bringing you that negative self-talk, be careful to let that resonate too long on you. Be that empathetic friend, be that person that allows them to vent. But also you have to be able to find a way to let it go. I know as a coach, I take in a lot of people's worries, anxieties, and stresses. And so I have life coaches of my own, my colleagues that I turn to, or friends of mine that I turn to, because I know that if I hold that negative energy, it'll weigh me down. But if I set it free, if I'm able to give it away, then I'm able to be more focused and more present with those that I serve. Now, I'm getting word from our producer that we do have a listener on the line. We're going to go say hello to them. Hi, welcome to the Living Full Out Show.
Hi, I have a question.
Yes.
So I live alone and I'm also working remotely. How do I keep busy while maintaining a good social life?
Kind of tough during these times, huh? Because you wish you could go out more and do more things.
Yeah.
I am with you. Because I think times when you're alone versus being with roommates, having a relationship, those are actually really sacred times. You want to take the jump from making it seem lonely to having it be productive, almost in a positive way, singly selfish, right? That is the time that you can work out from home. The TV remote is all yours, right? It is the time that you can start to take on new hobbies, maybe things that you were either distracted from before or couldn't do because there wasn't time. Now is the time. Buying a cookbook, trying different recipes, or, learning guitar, whatever that is. And I also find that when you're a home by yourself, that is a time when you can better that resume, when you can learn new skills, take webinars, online classes, which obviously you're doing. But the thing is, working remotely is also, a lot of people are going through it right now. And what I say about that is dress up, play the part, right? Don't just work in your pajamas. You can, but you want to feel good. You want to feel professional. You want to play that part even though you're doing it from home. And you know what? Try to protect yourself from that TV remote and the refrigerator, because there's a lot of distractions. Even the cell phone, you just got to put it away. And if you do that, I know that you're going to have focus when you're working remotely. Also, you're not going to feel as lonely. You're going to be busier than ever. And you always can call your friend Nancy, right? I'm here for you guys each week on this show. So hopefully that helps our listener there. And for everybody listening, know that we so appreciate you, everybody who called in and listening. And of course, Sandy Phillips Kirkham, thank you for sharing your story with us. The entire Living Full Out family is here to support you every week. We got Rich and Eilish and Kalila and Caleb, and we just want to make sure that you are living your best life. Make sure to go to livingfullout.com. Check out our 24-hour station if you want to hear Living Full Out on the go. Of course, just look in the App Store, look for Living Full Out Radio, or if you have an Alexa, you can put that in as a skill as well. It's just important to you to know that you are not alone. We are there to motivate you 24/7. And know that while the past has been tricky, and the future may also be challenging, you can put the past in the past. You can set it free. You can embrace the future. Know that I believe in all of you very much. I look forward to connecting with you on our social media sites. And together, we will live full out. We will be motivated. We will have in the rearview mirror that past that's holding us back. And just intentionally choosing to look forward, to live full out and love life. Remember to have fun. See you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Living Full Out Show with Nancy Solari. To learn more about this program, visit livingfullout.com for the latest episodes. Connect with the Living Full Out community by following us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and subscribing to our YouTube channel. If you have an inspirational story you want to share, email us at connect@livingfullout.com. Here's to you, living full out.